Alright guys, today we're going to be watching The Blind Man in the Woods by this guy. I'll leave his link in the description down below. Make sure to like, subscribe to him and stuff.
My name is Eric, and this happened to me when I was around 7 or 8 years old. One summer, my dad took me to a campsite for a long weekend. When we arrived, there were some kids around my age playing in a small park. I looked at my dad and he said, "Go ahead." So my dad unpacked the car and I went to maybe make some friends. There were two boys in the small park. I said hello and they said hello back. Their names were Kevin and Graham. Graham had to go shortly after because his parents were calling for him. So Kevin and I hung around. We talked about things we liked and how long we were staying at the campsite. After about an hour, Kevin's mom was calling for him, so we had to leave. I was about to head back to my dad when a boy appeared from the woods. He said hello. I said hi back. He introduced himself as Daniel. He seemed like a nice kid and we got along pretty well. He asked me if I wanted to play hide and seek, so I said yes. We played hide and seek at the campsite for maybe 45 minutes until I told him I had to go, so I went back to my dad and went to the camper. I told my dad I had made some friends, and my dad asked where their campers were. I told him where Kevin and Graham's were, but I never asked where Daniel was. I thought maybe, well, I'll see him the next day and I'll ask him then. So the next day I went outside to see if any of the kids wanted to play. Kevin and Graham were both unavailable. I was about to just return back to my camper when Daniel appeared out of nowhere, out the woods. We greeted each other, and I asked him if he wanted to play hide and seek again. He said yeah, but he said we should play at his house. I asked him where his house was. He told me it's not far. It's just through the woods.
Don't go.
I followed Daniel in the woods toward his house. We were walking for ages, and one thing that I found unusual was the more we walked, the less talkative and distant Daniel became. Eventually, we exited the woods, and Daniel said, "Here we are." He pointed at a rundown old house with a white van parked beside it. He started walking toward it. I slowly followed and asked Daniel, "So this is your house?" He replied by saying, "Yeah, let's go play hide and seek." I got this bad feeling. It became worse the closer we got to the house. It didn't look like a normal house. I started to notice that there were people standing by the windows inside the house. I asked Daniel if that was his dad in the window. And he said, yeah. Don't worry about him. He's harmless. And just continued walking. I don't know what it was, but something made me slow down. Daniel was by the front door at this point. And when he turned around, asked me if I was coming. I told him I had to go. I turned around and ran through the forest and back to my camper. I spent the next few hours watching TV. Then I got bored and decided to go back outside. I knocked on Graham's door, but he wasn't available. I knocked on Kevin's door, and his dad told me he was already out with some boy named Daniel. So I went back to the camper and did something else with my time. Late that night, there was a knock on our door. It was Kevin's parents. They asked if we had seen Kevin anywhere, as he's been gone for hours. I asked his mom if she had checked Daniel's house, and she said no because she didn't know where Daniel lived. I showed Kevin's parents along with my dad and a few other people through the woods to Daniel's house. When we got there, the van was gone. And when we knocked on the door, there was no answer. And the whole house was empty and abandoned. We didn't find Kevin for the rest of our time at the campsite, and he's still missing to this day as far as I know. I thought then, and still think today, that Daniel was some kind of bait to lure kids in the same age as him to be kidnapped. And I'm thankful my gut sensed danger and told me to leave.
We're gonna watch that one.
Babe, are you gonna get on? I've been waiting for 20 minutes. What are you doing?
1 second, babe. I'm trying to type right now and I'm in a rush and misspelling everything.
You're misspelling all of your text?
A co-worker
the
told
same
me this
guy.
unforgettable story about his time in high school. I'm going to write this from his perspective. Central High School in Springfield, Missouri is haunted. I know what you're thinking. Every kid says their school is haunted. But my story is different. I saw it. Central was actually the first high school in Springfield. The original brick building with its tower still stands, but has now expanded with many new wings. We'd all heard the stories about the steam tunnels that connected the buildings and the supposed hangings, but far more compelling was the story of the deadly principal who would whip troublesome students to death. That would have happened long ago when Springfield was a small town, and not the Queen City of the Ozarks. We had heard the rumors, the stories that were likely exaggerated, but being high schoolers, we knew we had to do one thing: be at the school late at night. I was the one who came up with the idea that we needed to join the drama class.
Why?
We were preparing a performance of South Pacific, and as I explained to my group of friends, the way to get in would be to join the class as stagehands, stay to clean up after the performance, and then just stay.
Bruh.
And that was what we did.
I would not
only
stay.
a couple of us actually got
Even if
onto
it
the
was
room,
for $1 million.
but after everyone else had left, letting the others in was simple. We split up into 3 pairs: myself and Sarah, Rich and Paul, and Michelle and Dan. We didn't have flashlights, and this was before we had cell phones, but the moonlight from the windows and the familiarity of the halls allowed us to get around the school very easily. After about an hour, we began to think perhaps the stories were just stories. We began to make our way to the gymnasium. We started to compare experiences, but everyone said the same thing. They hadn't seen anything, nor heard anything strange. And that's when a chair flew across the gym and slammed into the wall. What the heck? I gasped before I saw something else. Swarms of glittering little things crawling across the floor. They were cockroaches. We'd see cockroaches in the gym on occasion, but usually 1 or 2, not hundreds. "Let's get out of here," yelled Michelle, and we hurried to the nearest exit, a stairway leading up to the 2nd floor. It wasn't until we got upstairs that we realized that going upstairs probably wasn't the best course of action, but the cockroaches didn't seem to follow us there. As we stood next to a classroom, catching our breath, we heard loud footsteps down the hall. All of us backed up against the wall, trying to let whatever this was just pass by.
Hold up.
As the loud plodding footsteps came nearer, our tension grew higher. "Oh, screw this," Rich said, and he ran into a classroom, Sarah following quickly after him. The door slammed shut behind them. "Guys," I called. I almost didn't notice that the footsteps had stopped. Suddenly, we heard them scream, and something slammed against the wall.
What they
Something
did?
else hit it.
Being so
They kept on screaming. Paul pulled at the door, but the handle was stuck. Finally, after a few minutes of them screaming and something hitting the wall, it opened. We entered the classroom. All the desks and chairs were knocked over, and some had clearly been hitting the walls. How they'd gone that far was a mystery, as they were pretty heavy. We found Sarah crouched in a corner, crying and babbling incoherently, a puddle of moisture underneath her. Rich, on the other hand, was stumbling toward the window. "Get him!" I called, and Dan ran towards Rich, grabbing him. "Let me go. Just let me jump. Let me die," Rich cried. "Guys, this is enough," I said. "We need to get out of here." Michelle and Paul helped Sarah up, and helping Dan with Rich, we made our way back into the hall. As we stepped into the hallway, all at once, all the doors slammed shut. Then they all opened again and slammed again. "Screw this," Michelle yelled, and she and Paul began hurrying down the stairs, supporting Sarah between them. Dan ran after them, and I pulled Rich after me. The cockroaches downstairs had seemingly dispersed as we made our way to the nearest exit.
Y'all
Pushing
be
at the door,
walking.
nothing seemed to happen. "Come on, push it!" Michelle yelled, and Paul, Dan, and I struck the door together, forcing it open.
You hold.
We pulled Sarah and Rich outside, and as we made our way to the cars, we heard the door behind us slam shut. Dan helped Rich to his car, while Michelle and Paul brought Sarah to the car they'd arrived in. As for me, I ran to my own car. As I was about to climb inside, I happened to look back at the school, looking at the tower. There, in the top room, was a window. And very clearly, I could see the outline of someone looking out the window directly at us as we made our escape. It was then I realized the most horrifying thing of all, that we knew there was something in the high school. It knew we knew, and we had to go back to class on Monday.
Hold up. I'm sorry y'all had to see that last part.
You give out your phone.
I'm currently watching this one. I'm watching this, but I already know it's gonna ruin my childhood. It's gonna ruin what I think of McDonald's. The food. Not that one. This will be a long video. We're watching Life of Luxury.
If the guy has a problem with his body, they should take him to a doctor. What can we do for him?
We just went in your daughter's room and she wasn't there.
First, his daughter's gone. That can't. Ask yourself, who's next?
Hello?
Wait, never mind. So we're not watching that. Let's watch this one. If you want me to do more of these videos, tell me in the comments.
What would I do without your small mouth? Trolling me in and you kicking me out. Got my
3 scary stories, animated. 1. The man in my dream. I've been having a nightmare for 10 years. The same guy keeps appearing in my dream, and every day he's coming to me little by little. At first I think he was apparently standing outside the room, but now he was staring at me, blinking in front of me, and it was just yesterday. I've been getting used to having this nightmare for 10 years, and now I feel like I'm going to die. If I fall asleep tonight, I think he'll come one step closer, and he'll finally kill me.
And sometimes I'll make a video
2.
about joining
The feet in the mirror. 6 years ago, in the winter, I was arranging my bangs, looking at the mirror next to the elevator after class. There was a staircase reflecting in the mirror behind me at that time. After I had my bangs adjusted for a long time, I glanced at the stairs in the mirror and then noticed that there's a white feet at the top of the stairs. Stupid. Who the heck is going around with bare foot in this weather? I was wondering who it was, so I looked back and there was no one there. My heart sank and my whole body became stiff at that moment. I thought I was mistaken, so I looked back into the mirror, but those feet were still there.
Go there.
And it even came down a couple of steps more. I got goosebumps, burst into tears, and then ran out of the spot screaming. Never look in the mirror when I'm alone ever since that day. Who was that foot? 3. The man in the subway. I used to go to the academy by subway. One day I was sitting at the end of the seat by the door, and an old man was sitting right next to me. Then the subway stopped at one station. The moment the door in front of me opened, the guy came in from the side door of me at the same time. The door next to me won't be able to open due to the system, so how could a person come in through there? I still remember this moment vividly. When I glanced slightly to the side, he was wearing a sweatshirt, and I could see that he was just standing there with a blank look. The old man sitting next to me said to me, who was staring blankly at the man, "Kid, you have to pretend not to see that thing."
Alright, so that's it for the video.
3.
And hope you enjoyed. Have a nice day and bye.